Prince William was invited to see his father for the first time in years with Harry back on British soil, and reportedly, he chose not to show up at all. What should have been a quiet family reunion at Highgrove House turned into something far more telling, because according to insiders, William's absence wasn't about a scheduling conflict, it was a message, and everyone in that room apparently understood exactly what it meant. For 4 years, Harry hadn't set foot near his father in any meaningful private capacity. So when King Charles finally opened the door and invited his youngest son back to Highgrove, along with his 2 young children, Archie and Lilibet, it should have been a moment of quiet healing for the entire family. Sources say Charles genuinely wanted this reunion to be about his grandchildren, about finally holding the 2 kids he had barely gotten to know, untouched by politics, untouched by the years of public feuding that had torn this family apart. But reportedly, not everyone in the family saw it that way. According to those familiar with the situation, William was fully aware of the reunion date well in advance, and despite living close enough to attend without any real obstacle, he apparently made a deliberate choice to stay away. No public explanation, no statement, nothing except silence, which insiders suggest speaks louder than anything he could have said. To understand why this absence carries so much weight, you have to understand what William has reportedly been carrying since Harry stepped away from royal life. Sources close to the family claim William never fully forgave his younger brother, not for stepping back from royal duties, but for what came after: the interviews, the memoir, the accusations that reportedly painted William as cold, jealous, and controlling in front of the entire world. According to insiders, those wounds never fully closed, no matter how many times the public assumed time alone would heal them. So while Charles was apparently ready to extend an olive branch to Harry, sources suggest William wasn't remotely there yet, and rather than sit in the same room and pretend otherwise, he reportedly decided silence was the safer, more honest option. But according to royal watchers, that silence was anything but neutral. It reportedly told Harry, without a single word being exchanged, that reconciliation with his father does not mean reconciliation with his brother, and that some bridges may take far longer to rebuild than others, if they can be rebuilt at all. What makes this even more complicated, according to insiders, is where Meghan fits into all of this. She was reportedly expected to join Harry and the children for this reunion, but according to sources, a request for police protection for her outside of official royal residences was denied by the UK government. That meant Meghan stayed behind, while Harry brought their children to meet their grandfather without her, a detail that reportedly added an entirely new layer of tension to an already fragile moment. So here you have a reunion that was supposed to represent healing, and instead, it reportedly exposed just how fractured this family still is. A father trying to move forward, a brother reportedly refusing to, and a wife left on the outside looking in. And as Harry stood at Highgrove with his children, reportedly celebrating a small victory with his father while nursing the sting of his brother's absence and his wife's exclusion, one question loomed over everything. Was this reunion actually the beginning of healing? Or did it just reveal how much of this family may never come back together the way it once was? According to insiders, the silence from William didn't stay silence for long, because reportedly, within days of the reunion, a source close to the Wales household let something slip that turned this entire story in a completely different direction. Apparently, William's absence wasn't just about lingering resentment toward Harry. Sources suggest it was also about something Charles himself had reportedly done, something that had nothing to do with reconciliation and everything to do with trust. Insiders claim that in the lead-up to the reunion, Charles reportedly made a private decision without consulting William at all, quietly instructing aides to begin reviewing what a partial return to royal life might look like for Harry. Not full reinstatement, but a pathway that could eventually see him take on limited public duties again. According to sources, William found out about these conversations not from his father directly, but reportedly through palace staff, and that alone was apparently enough to make him feel like history was repeating itself, being kept in the dark about decisions that would directly affect the institution he has spent his entire life preparing to lead. For William, insiders suggest this wasn't just about Harry anymore, it became about respect, about being treated as an equal partner in decisions that would shape the monarchy's future rather than someone who simply finds out after the fact. Sources close to Kensington Palace claim William was reportedly stunned that his father would even entertain the idea of bringing Harry back into any official capacity after everything that had been said publicly. Memoirs, interviews, allegations that had reportedly caused real damage to the family's reputation and to relationships that took years to build. And this is where the conflict deepens beyond a simple sibling rift. According to insiders, William reportedly views any pathway back for Harry as a direct threat to the stability he has worked to build within the institution, a stability he believes was already tested enough by his father's health scares and the public scrutiny that came with them. Sources suggest William made his position known to close aides, reportedly stating that trust, once broken publicly and repeatedly, isn't something that gets restored simply because time has passed or because Charles wants a peaceful ending to his reign. Meanwhile, Harry reportedly remains unaware of just how deep this specific tension runs, according to those familiar with the matter. Sources claim he left the Highgrove reunion feeling cautiously hopeful, believing his father's warmth toward him and the children was a genuine sign that things were finally moving in the right direction. He apparently had no idea that his very presence back in the UK and the possibility of a future role was reportedly the exact reason his brother stayed away in the first place. This revelation reportedly puts Charles in an incredibly difficult position, caught between a son he is apparently trying to bring back into the fold and an heir who insiders say feels increasingly sidelined by decisions being made around him. According to sources, Charles has not yet addressed William's concerns directly, reportedly choosing instead to focus on the immediate win of reconnecting with his grandchildren rather than confronting the larger structural rift threatening to widen between his two sons. But according to insiders, that avoidance may not last much longer because sources suggest William has reportedly requested a private meeting with his father, one where he intends to make his position clear. Whatever pathway Charles is considering for Harry, it needs to involve him, not blindside him. And as that meeting reportedly looms on the horizon, one detail remains unresolved and increasingly urgent. Will Charles choose to prioritize the fragile progress he's made with Harry, or will he be forced to make a decision that could determine which son he risks losing for good? According to insiders, William's requested meeting with his father didn't stay quiet for long, because sources close to the palace claim Charles's aides were reportedly given a narrow window, just under 2 weeks, to prepare a formal response before William intended to escalate his concerns beyond a private conversation entirely. That detail alone reportedly transformed what could have been a simple family disagreement into something with real institutional consequences, a deadline neither side had publicly acknowledged, but both apparently understood. Sources suggest the pressure on Charles intensified almost immediately, because insiders claim William made it clear through his own aides that if he wasn't formally included in any decisions regarding Harry's potential return to public duties, he would consider stepping back from certain joint engagements with his father, a move that reportedly could have created exactly the kind of public rift the family had spent months trying to avoid. According to those familiar with the situation, this wasn't framed as a threat exactly, but insiders suggest everyone around Charles understood the weight behind it. William wasn't asking anymore, he was setting terms. If you're enjoying these royal family updates, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because this next part changes everything. According to insiders, it was at this point that Queen Camilla reportedly stepped further into the situation than she ever had before. Sources close to the family claim Camilla had been quietly observing the growing distance between Charles and William for weeks, reportedly concerned that her husband's eagerness to reconnect with Harry was coming at the cost of the relationship he had spent decades building with his eldest son. According to insiders, Camilla reportedly requested a private conversation with Charles, one where she apparently urged him to stop treating this as two separate issues, healing with Harry and managing William's concerns, and instead confront the reality that both relationships were now directly tied together, whether he wanted them to be or not. Sources suggest Camilla's involvement reportedly shifted something in Charles, because according to those familiar with the exchange, she pointed out that his reign would ultimately be remembered not by how he treated one estranged son, but by whether he preserved the trust of the son who would eventually carry the crown. Insiders claim this reportedly struck a nerve with Charles in a way few conversations had recently, forcing him to consider that his personal desire for reconciliation with Harry could unintentionally cost him something far more important, the confidence of the heir to the throne. With William's deadline reportedly approaching and Camilla apparently pushing Charles to act rather than avoid, Sources say the king found himself facing a decision he could no longer put off. According to insiders, Charles reportedly agreed to a formal meeting, this time not just a quiet father-son conversation, but one that would reportedly include senior aides from both households, an arrangement designed to make whatever was decided next official, documented, and impossible to quietly walk back later. And as that meeting reportedly approached, with William demanding transparency, Camilla urging resolution, and Harry still reportedly unaware of how close this entire situation had come to fracturing everything, one moment remained, the one where Charles would finally have to choose, out loud, in front of everyone, exactly what kind of family he intended to lead going forward. The formal meeting reportedly happened exactly as planned, senior aides from both households present, nothing left to quiet hallway conversations or second-hand information this time. According to insiders, Charles opened the meeting not with explanations or justifications, but with something closer to an apology, reportedly acknowledging to William directly that decisions about Harry's potential return should never have been discussed without him in the room. Sources close to the family claim William listened without interrupting, but the tension in the room reportedly remained until Camilla spoke. According to those familiar with what was said, she looked between father and son and said, "A crown means nothing if the people beside you don't trust the man wearing it." Insiders suggest that line reportedly cut through everything else being discussed, because it wasn't about Harry anymore, it was about what kind of king Charles intended to be for the son who would eventually succeed him. According to sources, Charles reportedly responded by formally committing to a new arrangement. Any decisions involving Harry's public role going forward would be reviewed jointly, with William included from the earliest stages rather than informed after the fact. This wasn't announced publicly, insiders say, but documented internally among senior aides, a quiet but binding shift in how the palace would handle these decisions moving forward. For William, reportedly, this resolved the immediate concern, but sources close to him suggest the underlying trust hasn't fully returned, not yet. Insiders claim he agreed to move forward, but with visible caution, aware that today's commitment could just as easily be tested again the moment Harry's situation evolves further. As for Harry, according to those familiar with the matter, he remains reportedly unaware of how close this entire arrangement came to falling apart before it even began, still believing his reunion with his father was simply the start of healing, without knowing how much his brother had quietly fought to protect his own place in it. What's clear, according to insiders, is that this meeting didn't erase years of tension between William and Charles, it simply forced it into the open long enough to be addressed. And whether this new arrangement holds the next time Harry's future becomes a topic of conversation, or whether old wounds resurface the moment real decisions have to be made, remains something only the coming months will show. So now I want to know what you think. Do you believe William was right to demand transparency from his father? Or do you think this is just another sign of how deep the rift in this family really goes? Let me know in the comments.